There was a man who came to me many years ago in the cold months of a Zurich winter. He sat across from me in silence for nearly an hour. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow, as if it had traveled across a great distance to reach his own throat. He told me he had everything: a wife, children, a house by the lake, a position of influence. And yet, he said, every desire he had ever fulfilled had left him emptier than before. He looked at me with the eyes of a man drowning in his own success and asked the question that every soul eventually whispers in the dark. Doctor, why do my desires keep betraying me? I did not answer him that day. I poured him a glass of wine and I let the fire do the talking. But what I learned from him and from the hundreds who came after him has stayed with me ever since. And tonight, in these few minutes we will share, I want to speak to you, not as a psychiatrist, not as a scholar, but as one soul speaking to another across the strange medium of this glowing screen. Because what I am about to tell you, this thing about desire and its fulfillment, is something the ancients knew, something the alchemists tried to encode in their cryptic symbols, and something modern man has almost entirely forgotten. You have been told, perhaps 1,000 times, that to fulfill a desire you must work harder, want it more, visualize it longer. Repeat affirmations into the mirror until your reflection begins to believe them. And so you have tried, and the desire has remained like a candle behind frosted glass, visible but untouchable. I tell you now with the certainty of a man who has spent his life mapping the dark continent of the psyche, that the reason your desires have not been fulfilled has nothing to do with effort. It has everything to do with the fact that you have been knocking on the wrong door. The desire you think you want is almost never the desire you actually need. This is the first secret, and it is also the most uncomfortable one. When a man tells me he desires wealth, I do not hear wealth. I hear a child who was once made to feel small, demanding the universe make him large. When a woman tells me she desires love, I do not hear love. I hear a soul that was once unwitnessed, demanding to finally be seen. The surface desire is the symptom. The deeper desire is the wound, speaking in the only language it knows. But here is where it becomes interesting. Here is where the darkest game of the unconscious begins. Because the unconscious, that vast ocean beneath the small island of your ego, does not respond to the language of demand. It does not respond to your willpower, your discipline, your vision boards, or your strained repetitions. It responds to something else entirely, something the alchemists called kononxo, the sacred marriage, the union of opposites. And this, my friend, is what I want to teach you in these 3 minutes of true work that lie ahead of us. Let me tell you what fulfillment actually is, because the modern world has lied to you about this. Fulfillment is not the moment when the external object arrives in your hands. It is not the new house, the new lover, the new title, the new bank balance. I have sat with men who possessed all of these and were, in the truest sense, starving to death from the inside. Fulfillment is the moment when the inner image and the outer reality finally embrace. It is the moment when what your soul has been dreaming and what your life is offering finally recognize each other as long-lost twins. This is why the ancient alchemists were not, despite what the rationalists tell us, foolish men chasing impossible gold. They knew exactly what they were doing. When they spoke of turning lead into gold, they were speaking of the transformation of the human soul. The nigredo, the blackening, was the moment when a man finally faced what he had been hiding from himself. The albedo, the whitening, was the purification that followed. And the rubedo, the reddening, was the final fulfillment, the marriage of the inner and the outer, the moment when the philosopher's stone was born within the chest of the seeker. What mythology has been trying to tell us for centuries is precisely this. Every hero's journey is the same journey. Every fairy tale, every myth, every sacred text. The hero leaves home. He descends into the underworld. He confronts the dragon, and only after this descent does he return with the treasure. Notice, please, that the treasure is never found at the surface. It is never given to the one who simply wants it. It is earned by the one who has been willing to die, in a symbolic sense, to the person he was when he first began the wanting. Now here's the part most people overlook. The 3 minutes I am offering you tonight are not a technique, they are a doorway. And like all true doorways, they require you to leave something behind before you can pass through. What you must leave behind is the illusion that desire is something you control. You do not control your desires. Your desires are sent to you, like dreams, from the deeper layers of the psyche. They are messages. They are letters from the self, that mysterious totality of who you truly are, addressed to the small ego that you mistakenly believe is the whole of you. When a desire arises in you, do not immediately ask how to get it. This is what the modern world has trained you to do, and this is precisely why you remain unfulfilled. Instead, ask the desire what it wants from you. Yes, you heard me correctly. Treat the desire as if it were a visitor at your door, a stranger with a message. Sit with it. Look at it. Ask it gently what it has come to tell you. This single shift, this turning of the question, is what the ancients called the alchemical reversal, and it changes everything. I once worked with a young man who desired, with a burning intensity, to become a famous writer. He had been chasing this for 15 years. He had written manuscripts that no one read. He had endured rejection after rejection. He came to me on the edge of giving up. I asked him to sit with the desire, not as a goal, but as a guest. I asked him to listen to what it wanted. And after weeks of this strange dialogue, he came to me one morning with tears in his eyes. The desire to be a famous writer he had discovered was not actually about writing or fame. It was the voice of a small boy who had never been heard by his father. The fame was the symbol. The hearing was the wound. Once he understood this, something extraordinary happened. He stopped chasing the desire. He turned toward the wound itself. He grieved. He wrote, not for fame, but as an act of finally listening to his own unheard self. And within 2 years, his work found its readers, not because he had wanted it more, but because he had stopped wanting the surface and had touched the depth. This is what I mean by fulfillment. This is the only kind that does not leave you emptier than before. What Jung said about this, what I am saying to you now, is deeply unsettling for the modern mind. Because the modern mind has been built around the idea that you are the master of your fate, that your will is the engine of your becoming, that if you simply want hard enough and act consistently enough, the universe must obey. But I tell you, the universe does not obey the ego. The universe responds to the self, and the self speaks in symbols, in dreams, in synchronicities, in the strange coincidences that the rational mind dismisses as random. The 3 minutes I am offering you tonight are a practice of listening. They are a practice of turning. They are not a magic spell, but they are, in a very real sense, a form of magic. The magic of attention rightly placed. Let me walk you through it now, because the time has come to stop circling the door and to actually open it. Find a place where you will not be disturbed. Sit upright, but not rigid. Close your eyes and bring to mind the desire that has been haunting you. Not the small desires, the daily appetites, but the deep one, the one that has followed you across years, across relationships, across cities, the one that returns even after you have tried to silence it. Let it arise fully in your awareness. Do not judge it. Do not analyze it. Simply let it stand before you, like a figure in a dream. Now, in the first minute, ask the desire what it looks like. Give it a form. Is it a person, an animal, a landscape, a child, a god? Let the image come without forcing it. The unconscious speaks through images, and if you allow it, your desire will reveal its true face. Most people are astonished by what arises here. The desire for wealth might appear as a starving child. The desire for love might appear as an old woman in a dark forest. The desire for power might appear as a wounded king on a broken throne. Whatever appears, do not turn away. In the second minute, ask the image what it has been trying to tell you. Speak to it in the silence of your own mind as if it were a real being. Ask it, what do you want from me? What have you come to teach? What part of me have you been carrying all these years? And then, here is the most difficult part. You must listen, not with your thinking mind, but with the deeper organ of the psyche, the one that knows things before the intellect can name them. The answer will come. It may come in words, in images, in feelings, in a single sentence that arises from nowhere. Trust whatever comes. In the third minute, you make the offering. This is what the alchemists understood and what modern self-help has utterly missed. You do not demand fulfillment. You offer yourself to the desire. You say to it, I see you now. I have been chasing your shadow when you wanted my soul. Tell me what you need me to become, and I will begin the becoming. This is the sacred marriage, the conjuncture, the moment when the ego stops being the tyrant of the psyche and becomes instead its devoted servant. And in this moment, something shifts. Something always shifts. I have seen it 1,000 times. The real turning point begins right here, because what you discover when you do this practice with sincerity is that the desire was never trying to torture you. The desire was trying to evolve you. Every unfulfilled longing in your life is the self, in its infinite wisdom, calling you toward a version of yourself that does not yet exist. The reason the desire has remained unfulfilled is that you have been trying to drag the desire down to the level of the ego you already are, when the desire was trying to lift you to the level of the self you are meant to become. This is what I meant years ago when I wrote that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The unfulfilled desire is the unconscious speaking. And as long as you treat it as a problem to be solved rather than a message to be heard, you will continue to chase it in circles, growing more exhausted, more bitter, more convinced that life has cheated you. But life has not cheated you. You have simply been refusing to read the letter that was addressed with such care to your own soul. Let me speak now about the shadow, because no honest conversation about desire can avoid this territory. Every desire you have ever had carries within it a shadow desire, an unconscious twin, the dark sister or brother of the bright wish. The man who desires recognition also, in some hidden chamber, desires invisibility. The woman who desires intimacy also desires solitude. The seeker who desires enlightenment also desires the comfort of his own ignorance. These contradictions are not flaws in you, they are the architecture of the soul itself. And until you make peace with both halves of the desire, neither half can be fulfilled. This is why so many people, when they finally achieve what they thought they wanted, are surprised by an emptiness, even a horror, that follows the achievement. The man who finally becomes wealthy may discover that he misses the simplicity of struggle. The woman who finally marries may discover that she misses her solitude. The artist who finally becomes famous may discover that he misses being unknown. The shadow desire, denied for so long, returns with a vengeance the moment the surface desire is satisfied. And the soul, divided against itself, finds no rest. The fulfillment of any desire then requires what I call the integration of the opposites. You must hold both the wish and its shadow in the same hand. You must love what you want and also love what wanting it has cost you. You must move toward the fulfillment and also honor the part of you that fears it. This is the enantiodromia, the law by which everything eventually turns into its opposite, unless it is consciously integrated. The unconscious is the great equalizer. Whatever you suppress, it will return through the back door of your life, often at the worst possible moment. I have watched men spend their entire lives chasing a single desire, only to discover on their deathbeds that the desire was a decoy, a diversion, a bright object dangled by the unconscious to keep them in motion while their true life passed unlived. Do not let this be you. 3 minutes of honest attention are worth more than 30 years of unconscious striving. This is not exaggeration. This is something I have witnessed with my own eyes in my consulting room again and again. There is an old Sufi story I have always loved. A man searches for his lost key on the street beneath the lamppost. A passerby asks him where he lost it. The man replies, "In the house." The passerby asks, "Then why are you searching here?" The man says, "Because the light is better here." This is precisely what the modern seeker does with desire. He searches in the lit places, the obvious places, the surface places. He searches in jobs, in possessions, in relationships, in achievements. He searches anywhere the light of consciousness already shines. But the key, the true key to fulfillment is in the house. The house is the unconscious. And the unconscious is dark. Not because it is evil, but because no one has bothered to bring a lamp. The 3 minutes I have given you tonight are that lamp. They are a small flame, no more than a candle, but a candle is enough to begin. The unconscious does not need to be flooded with light all at once. It only needs to be acknowledged. It only needs to know that you have finally, after all these years, turned toward it with respect rather than with demand. Now let me say something about the self, because this is where everything we have been speaking of finally rests. The self, in my understanding, is not your personality. It is not your ego. It is not a small voice in your head that narrates your day. The self is the totality of who you are, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, known and unknown. It is the center of the entire psyche, the way the sun is the center of the solar system. And the self has only one purpose, one deep intention, one organizing principle. It wants you to become whole. Every desire that has ever arisen in you is at its deepest root a desire for wholeness. The specific form the desire takes, the wealth, the love, the recognition, the meaning, these are merely the costumes that wholeness wears in order to appear to your ego. The ego cannot perceive wholeness directly. It is too vast, too paradoxical, too far beyond the small frame of self-image. So wholeness appears in disguise. It appears as a thing you cannot stop wanting. And the moment you understand this, the moment you see that all your desires have been pointing you home, something in you relaxes that has been clenched for a very long time. When was the last time you allowed yourself to not chase? When was the last time you sat with a desire without immediately trying to solve it, fulfill it, or escape from it? I suspect for most of you, it has been a long time. Perhaps it has never happened. We have been trained by a civilization that has forgotten the soul to treat every inner movement as a problem requiring an external solution. But the soul does not require solutions. The soul requires attention. There is a moment that comes in the practice I have described to you when something miraculous occurs. You sit with a desire, you ask it what it is, you listen for its message, you offer yourself to its evolution, and then suddenly the desire begins to dissolve. Not because it has been fulfilled in the worldly sense, but because it has been heard. The desire was a messenger. Once the message is delivered, the messenger has no reason to remain. What remains in its place is not emptiness, but a strange new fullness. A sense that you are already, in some essential way, what you have been seeking to become. This is what the mystics of every tradition have tried to tell us. The kingdom is within you. The treasure is buried in the field of your own life. The pearl of great price is hidden in the very darkness you have been trying to escape. The desire was never the problem. The way you were holding the desire was the problem. And when you finally release the grip and open the hand, the desire that you could not capture for decades arrives, often through the most unexpected door in the form you never imagined. I want to leave you with a story from my own life. When I was a young man, I desired with great intensity to understand the human soul. I read everything. I traveled. I studied with the masters of my time. I worked in hospitals among the most disturbed minds I could find, and yet the understanding I sought always seemed just beyond my grasp. The more I chased it, the more it retreated. Then one day, I had a dream. In the dream, an old man with a beard of white came to me and said, "You have been seeking the soul as if it were outside of you. Sit down, let the soul find you." I awoke from that dream a different man. I stopped chasing. I began to listen. And everything I have come to understand about the human psyche came to me in the years that followed, not as a result of my pursuit, but as a result of my receptivity. This is the great paradox at the heart of all fulfillment. You do not get what you chase. You get what you become available to receive. And the only way to become truly available is to descend with courage into the underworld of your own unconscious, to face what you have hidden there, to integrate what you have rejected, and to emerge with a strange new wholeness that the ancients called the philosopher's stone. 3 minutes. That is all I have asked of you tonight. Not 3 minutes of effort, but 3 minutes of presence. 3 minutes of turning the question. 3 minutes of letting the desire speak rather than commanding it to obey. And if you do this, not once, but again and again, in the quiet hours of your life, I promise you something will begin to change. Not because I have given you a technique, but because you have finally remembered something your soul has always known. That desire is not the enemy. Desire is the bridge. Desire is the love letter from the self to the ego, asking you to come home. The modern world will tell you that fulfillment lies in the future, in the next acquisition, in the next achievement, in the next version of yourself you are striving to become. But I tell you, on the authority of every wisdom tradition humanity has ever produced, that fulfillment lies in the present moment, in the willingness to meet your own depths with reverence rather than with demand. The future you are chasing is in some mysterious way already here, waiting for you to notice it. What mythology has been trying to tell us for centuries is that the hero never finds the treasure where he expected. He finds it in the cave he was most afraid to enter. He finds it after he has lost everything he thought he needed. He finds it precisely when he has stopped looking. And then, only then, does he return to the world transformed, carrying the gift that his community could not have given itself. You are the hero of your own myth, whether you know it or not. Every desire that has refused to be fulfilled is the call to adventure. Every disappointment is the threshold guardian. Every dark night of the soul is the descent into the underworld. And the treasure, the true treasure, is not the thing you have been wanting. The treasure is the self you become in the process of learning how to want it rightly. So tonight, before you sleep, before the next demand of your day pulls you back into the surface of things, give yourself these 3 minutes. Sit with one desire, just one, the deepest one, the one you are almost embarrassed to admit you still carry. Ask it what it wants. Listen for the answer. And then, with all the courage your soul can summon, offer yourself to what it has come to teach you. This is the ancient practice. This is the alchemical work. This is, in the end, the only way any desire has ever truly been fulfilled. And when you have done this, when you have done it not once but 100 times, you will discover something the modern world has done everything in its power to make you forget. You will discover that you are not a small thing chasing large things. You are a large thing remembering itself through the strange and beautiful theater of human longing. The desires were never separate from you. They were you calling yourself back to wholeness. And the fulfillment, when it comes, will not feel like an arrival. It will feel like a recognition, as if you have finally, after all this wandering, come home to a place you had never actually left. I have spoken now longer than I intended. The fire is dying down, and the hour is late. But before I let you go, I want to ask you one question, and I want you to carry it with you into the silence that follows this video. The question is this: if your deepest desire is in truth a letter from your own soul, then what has it been waiting all this time to tell you? And when, my friend, will you finally sit down and read it? Sleep on this question. Dream on it. Let it work in you the way good wine works in old oak. And when you return, we will go deeper still. There are darker rooms in the house of the psyche than the one we have entered tonight. And there are brighter rooms too. Rooms where the light is so unexpected that it brings men to their knees. But we will speak of those another time. For now, simply sit with the desire. Listen, and remember that fulfillment was never something you had to earn. It was something you had to become available to receive. Until we meet again, in the strange theater of these glowing images, walk gently with your own soul. It has been waiting for you longer than you know.